The reunion was being held at a 5-star coastal resort, the kind with white marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a valet who opened every door with a bow. My stomach twisted as I stepped out of the cab, heels clicking on the pristine pavement. It had been years since I last saw most of them, my aunts, uncles, cousins, and especially my father. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The last time I stood in front of my family, I was 22, broke, jobless, and still clinging to a dream no one believed in. My father laughed in my face the day I told him I wanted to open my own hospitality brand. "You're not smart enough for that," he scoffed. "Stick to waitressing." He said it like a joke, but it wasn't one to him, or to me. When the invitation arrived in gold foil lettering last month, Whitmore Family Annual Gathering, formal attire required, I nearly threw it away. But something in me wanted to go, not for them, for me. I took the elevator up to the rooftop ballroom, my heart pounding. I wasn't the same girl who used to cry in the laundry room after being told I was the mistake child. I had changed. But I didn't expect him to stay the same. And yet, as I stepped into the room, nothing had changed. My father's voice carried through the crowd like a siren, that same booming, self-important tone that had always been impossible to ignore. He was standing by the bar, drink in hand, entertaining a circle of second cousins and extended relatives I barely recognized. "And this one here?" he chuckled, clapping me on the shoulder like I was part of the punchline. "This is Emma, the one who never amounted to anything. Still figuring life out, I think. Or maybe not." The air left my lungs. Laughter followed his words, some nervous, some genuine, and he grinned like he'd just told the funniest joke in the world. I didn't say anything. I didn't flinch. I didn't defend myself. I just smiled and let his words hang in the air, heavy and ignorant. I glanced around the room at the faces of people who had dismissed me when I needed them most, people who had asked my dad what happened to her, with faux concern over the years. And just then, a young man in a crisp black suit approached, stopping at my side with a respectful nod. "Ms. Whitmore," he said clearly so everyone could hear, "the general manager would like to confirm that the private penthouse suite has been prepared to your specifications. Also, the head chef is asking if you'd prefer the imported French rosé or your usual California blend." The entire room went silent. My father turned to me, confused. "What's he talking about?" I met his gaze, calm, unshaken. "He's talking about my hotel. I own the Whitmore collection now. This resort? It's mine." A gasp echoed from someone in the back. A chair scraped the floor. No one spoke. My father's face turned white, then red. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like he'd just been punched. I turned to the server. "Tell chef I'll take the rosé, and ask the concierge to remove the family from the VIP lounge. It's reserved for owners only." I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't need revenge in the form of insults or chaos. My existence, my success, was louder than anything I could say. And as I walked through the room, the same girl they called a disappointment, I felt a quiet kind of power that no amount of praise or apology could give me. I didn't stay long in that ballroom after the moment the truth landed like thunder. The hush that fell over the family's laughter was deafening, and I didn't need to linger to soak in their stunned silence. I'd waited years for someone in that room to see me, really see me, but I had stopped needing their approval the day I built something they said I never could. I stepped out onto the balcony, high above the crashing waves below, gripping the gold-plated railing as the sea breeze blew through my hair. I wasn't shaking, but I wasn't at peace either. Something still burned inside me. Not rage, but a slow, painful ache of everything I'd endured just to stand on my own. It wasn't just my dad's cruel words tonight. It was everything he'd ever said and done to dim my light. I remembered being 16, getting accepted into an elite summer program for hospitality and tourism. I ran to show him the letter, glowing with pride, thinking for once he might actually say something kind. Instead, he barely looked up from his newspaper. "That'll just be a waste of money," You'll drop out like everything else you start. I didn't drop out. I worked nights at a diner cleaning up spilled milkshakes and rude customers just to save enough to go. I slept on a friend's couch that summer and learned more in those few weeks than I had in my entire school life. It lit a fire in me, but every time I tried to share a win, my family stomped it out. My sister would scoff, "Hospitality isn't a real career, it's just glorified cleaning," while Mom would sigh and say, "Why can't you be more like your cousin Emily? She's married and respectable." Respectable. That word haunted me. It was code for submissive, silent, married off before 25 to a man who'd control the bank account and the calendar. I had been none of those things. I'd spent the last decade building my life from the scraps they left me. No support, no encouragement, no help. When I launched my first boutique resort, not a single family member came to the opening, though they'd flown cross-country for my sister's wedding to a dentist she divorced 8 months later. Still, I kept going. I built the Whitmore collection on values they never understood: dignity, elegance, care, and above all, the belief that people who are overlooked deserve luxury too. I handpicked my staff from underprivileged backgrounds, gave women second chances, and funded scholarships for girls with big dreams and no backing, girls like me. And now, here I stood, above them all, not in pride, but in quiet triumph. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus. I smiled. Marcus was more than just my partner. He had been my anchor when storms hit hardest. We met years ago when I was negotiating my first big deal for land near the coast. He was the financial advisor assigned to represent the sellers. At first, we clashed. I was too stubborn and he was too careful. But he saw my vision, and when everyone else backed away, he invested in me, in us. I answered. "Hey, you okay?" he asked gently. I nodded, even though he couldn't see. They found out. I didn't plan it that way, but it happened. Did he say anything? Nothing. He just stood there like someone pulled the rug from under his ego. "You don't owe him a thing," Marcus said. "Not a word, not an explanation." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I know, but part of me still wishes they'd cared, even once. He was silent a moment, then said, "Come down to the suite. I have something for you." I turned from the balcony and made my way to the penthouse level, my heels clicking across the polished marble. When I entered the suite, Marcus was standing by the window, holding a small velvet box. "Is this a business deal or a personal one?" I asked with a smile. He smiled back, that soft, dimpled grin that made everything else fade. "Both." He handed me the box. Inside was a gold key, not symbolic, but real. "I bought out the last piece of the resort you didn't already own," he said. "It's all yours now, every square inch." I blinked. "Why?" "Because you built this, and I want every part of it, of us, to be yours. No one will ever call you nothing again." And as I stood there in the arms of a man who didn't see me as broken or behind, but as brilliant and worthy, I realized this was the family I chose. Not the one that mocked me, not the one that measured me by marriage or money, but the one that saw my strength in full color. Little did I know, my father wasn't done yet. Because what he did the next morning, that desperate, cruel thing, would become the final nail in our relationship. The next morning, the sun rose over the ocean in streaks of gold and crimson, but it didn't bring peace. My phone started vibrating before I'd even finished my first cup of tea on the balcony. One call, then another, and then another. I ignored them all until a message finally came through from my cousin. "Uncle Robert is downstairs, causing a scene." I almost laughed. Of course. He couldn't just leave it alone. After all, my success had embarrassed him in front of the entire family. He had spent my whole life assuring everyone I was a failure. Now he was scrambling for control over a narrative that no longer belonged to him. I took my time getting dressed. No makeup. Just a sleek, fitted black jumpsuit, my hair in a low bun, and the hotel badge clipped neatly to my collar that read, Executive Director, Owner. I descended the grand staircase of the resort slowly, each step a reminder of every insult I'd swallowed to get here. When I walked into the lobby, my father was standing at the reception desk, red-faced, gesturing wildly, berating my staff. "Sir," one of my concierges said calmly, "we've already explained. Only registered guests are allowed in private conference spaces." "I am her father," he yelled. "This is my daughter's reunion and you people are treating me like a stranger." "That's exactly what you are," I said, stepping in. He turned to me, his jaw clenched. "What kind of circus are you running here trying to humiliate your own blood?" "My blood humiliated me my entire life," I said, my voice steady. "You just never expected me to rise high enough for you to choke on it." "Why are you doing this?" he snapped. "You think money makes you better than the rest of us?" "No," I said, "but it gave me the power to choose who I allow to disrespect me." He scoffed. "You think any of this matters? You're still unmarried, no family, no real life." I stepped closer. "You introduced me yesterday as the one who never amounted to anything. Well, let me be clear. I don't need your validation. I don't need your approval. I built this empire from the ground up. Every brick, every deal, every sleepless night. I did it while you ignored me, while you laughed, while you told everyone I was chasing hotel dreams like some lost child." "But family," he began. "You don't get to pull the family card now," I said, my voice rising. "Where was family when I couldn't afford textbooks in college because you said my major was a waste? Where was family when I opened my first inn and begged you to come to the launch, and you sent back a maybe next time card? Where was family when Mom died and you didn't even ask if I was okay?" He swallowed, his face flickering between shame and rage. "You'll regret this. You think the world owes you something." "The world owes me nothing," I said. "But you? You owe me an apology. And until that day comes, you are no longer welcome in this space. This is a place of respect, of dignity, of rebuilding. And you are not part of that." I turned to the security team. "Escort Mr. Whitmore off the property and put him on the permanent no-entry list." The staff hesitated, glancing between us. "I'm not bluffing," I said. "I own this hotel." A long silence followed as my father looked around, suddenly aware of the stares, the whispers, the eyes on him. He had finally become what he feared most: irrelevant. He was halfway to the door when he spun back around. "You'll die alone. All that money won't hold your hand when you're old and pathetic." I gave a small smile. "Actually, Marcus already bought the plot next to mine, and we plan to live a very long life before we ever need it." His face crumpled, and for the first time in my life, I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Fear. Not of me, but of everything he'd lost by underestimating me. He left. That evening, I stood by the glass windows of the grand ballroom as the reunion wound down. Some cousins came to apologize. Others avoided eye contact. My sister, who had long been the family's pride, whispered softly as she passed, "You were always the strong one. We just never saw it." But I didn't need their praise. I didn't need their regret. As the final song played and the last guests filed out, I stayed behind, sipping champagne in silence. And when the lights dimmed, I stood in the center of the ballroom where yesterday I had been introduced as a nobody, and I whispered to the air, "I am not nothing. I am the storm you ignored, and I didn't just survive. I won." That was the real reunion. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you